Hello, Assad. Thanks for coming so quickly. Um, I know I haven't been streaming for very long, and this is unusually late for me, but having returned from holiday and gotten over my jet lag by sleeping a lot, I have time and energy at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I also thought since I have I had to listen to Brutus's video twice in order because he basically deleted all my comments on his video. Now, this is malicious and childish behavior and unmanly to boot. I don't think my comments were all that insulting. They were just comments on what I thought of David's take on certain fundamental aspects of Judaism that I know to be incorrect. Now, I'll admit that there were many of them, but who cares, right? Why does it matter if it's too many for the comfort of Brutus? I actually don't delete comments under my videos, even if they're unflattering, as long as they're well, what's the word? Coherent and informative and intelligible. So I just don't see why a man should take on this girly approach to comments he doesn't like. And this is fundamentally the problem with Western men. They do behave like women, like malicious, bitchy women who can't take it. So I don't agree with him. So what? That's the whole point, isn't it? You don't have to agree and you work out your differences by arguing. And if you won't argue, if you just block and disengage and traduce the other person, saying they're mad or evil or any of that crap, then what is the point? It shows that you are not capable of honest and rational discourse, which would be a way of encouraging your enemies because this compulsive display of stupidity encourages your enemies. And I know Brutus can't help that. He's got his daddy issues and whatnot, and he can't take criticism, and he is as emotional as a woman. But that's how he is, and that is a problem, and he's not the only one. Hello, Jim Boughton of Australia. Well, we should have a chat one of these days. If you've had any further thoughts on what I said to you last time. Now, to go back to my subject of the attitude of Brutus, you can just go to this tweet. Actually, I will put it in the description and you will know exactly what my comments are since he deleted all of them because he's a silly little girl who can't take criticism and can't debate properly. So, and he made me, well, I made myself really, but because I noticed that he had deleted all my comments, I decided to listen to it again and make the comments, which I should have put on both Twitter and under his video for good measure. And now I've done both. So I am not that easily deleted. Brutus, who also calls himself Alfred, who who had it pointed out to him by Duvid that his opinion doesn't matter because he's too much of a coward to reveal himself, and then he pretends that if he actually revealed his identity, he would be put in jail. I'm not put in jail, touch wood, because I don't think I say anything that targets particular groups. I am not proposing the mass expulsion of non-whites. And I'm not foolish enough, even if I did want it and were a white nationalist, to propose something that will I automatically identify myself with a bunch of low IQ losers who don't know what they can or cannot say. I don't need to target groups, only systems of politics and systems of morality that I perceive to have failed. And obviously, I've been hoping to find somebody capable of discussing these things with me. And Jim Bowden, whom I know to be a lawyer, is, in theory anyway, capable of discussing these things. But unfortunately, I just can't find anybody with a bit of legal training, a bit of intellectual honesty, a bit of political and moral and social awareness to say these things in public without getting themselves into trouble. Now, what is a problem with Brutus? He is immensely emotional. The first time I've encountered him was with, I think I was in the same stream as Jen Sharf, and Jen Sharf deeply upset him. And then he deleted the video. And that's a shame because that's, it would have been quite funny to display his lack of control over his own emotions by letting some woman claiming to be a Hindu. Well, actually, Jen Sharp did not claim to be a Hindu. In fact, she disliked these references to. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. He disliked these references. She disliked these references to Hinduism because she thinks Hinduism was a name given to the religions of the peoples of the Indus Valley, and made it sound like Hinduism was not a serious religion. And, well, it may have some wisdom, but basically it hasn't got an official religious leader, and that is its problem. And sadly for Jews and Sunni Muslims, this is also the problem of Jews and Sunni Muslims. It isn't a problem of Christians if they are Catholic or Anglican or Orthodox Christians. But I believe that there is some schism within Orthodox Christianity, so they will not be accepting each other's patriarchs. Patriarchs are the official religious leader of Orthodox Christianity, but they don't really matter because nobody really takes Orthodox Christianity seriously, and certainly not the Russians or the Greeks. They are basically Orthodox Christianity is basically a signifier of cultural affiliation and has no influence on the actual behavior of those calling themselves Orthodox Christians, because basically these people calling themselves Orthodox Christians don't really believe in the Trinity. The converts to Orthodox Christianity are just showing their dislike and distaste of the failed forms of Christianity in the West, such as Lutheranism, Anglicanism, and Catholicism. But Christianity is a failed religion and is basically was basically allowed by God to come into being and to fail and to make the point that the sin of idolatry is its own punishment. Now, what is the problem with idolatry, and who is an idolater? I am, of course, saying that Brutus is guilty of worshipping his own dumb opinions and refusing to be corrected and refusing to subject them to scrutiny by refusing to engage with me. He engages with Duvid because Duvid is a sort of Jew that would confirm the Jewish conspiracy theories of anti-Semites. He will hear at the end of his dialogue with Duvid that he basically believes that Jews are responsible for the degeneracy of the West. And this means that he is in fact incapable of having the historical knowledge to acknowledge that Christianity was an accident waiting to happen. He lacks the historical knowledge to know that Christendom ended in 1918. And all these things can easily be addressed if only he were prepared to engage. But he is too emotional. And that is why he behaves like a girl, and believes in paganism. Paganism is basically idol worship. And even if he doesn't have any official idols that he worships, the idea of Krishna consciousness is basically worshipping a man. So Brutus has gone from a culture of worshipping a Jew to a culture of worshipping Krishna, which is idolatry. Not that he cares, because basically Duvid and Brutus and others do not care if they are idolaters, because if they did care, if they believed in God, they would care, but they don't. So such people go from one religion to another in order to find one they like. But let's just understand that God does not care whether a bunch of idolaters like him or not. For God, if he exists, would just lay down the law. And this is clearly too much for people like Brutus, who just doesn't get it about idolatry. His other intellectual deficiencies are his inability to understand why it's a problem, or the absurd position of being an ethno-nationalist who is white, adopting the ethno-religion of the peoples of the Indus Valley who are brown. How is he going to organize himself and people like him, of which there are few indeed, to organize together to challenge and defeat the enemy? How is he going to do that? Nobody agrees with him. Nobody wants to adopt Hinduism if they are a white nationalist. Why? Why would anyone adopt a low status religion of people who aspire to ethical monotheism. Hindus want to be considered no-hides. This is something that Brutus has failed to consider. Now, if he were prepared to talk to me, he would learn all these things more quickly, but as Jesus says, there are none so blind as those who will not see, and none so deaf as those who will not hear, and Brutus is deaf and blind to truth, logic, and morality. For those who are interested in the points that I sought to raise in his conversation with David, they can click on the link that I gave. Let me just check that I've got the right one. Yes. So it's a link to, it's a Twitter post containing the video that I'm talking about and all the comments below. I suppose the point would be too esoteric for the average knuckle-dragging anti-Semite or Islamophobe, but they're there anyway for anyone interested in these matters. I've just realised I gave the wrong one. I gave the link to this YouTube stream when I meant to give the other one. So I will now correct myself. You see, I am capable of correcting myself, and I like to think that I make a virtue of engaging with any of my challenges, because I feel confident that my ideas can withstand scrutiny from anyone at all, and if they fail to survive the scrutiny of others, then I will have to concede that my ideas are wrong, unfounded, and incoherent. But so far I have received no engagement which disposes me to think that secular Quranism is a dead duck. I am an optimist. All political activists are fundamentally optimists, and as an optimist, I believe that when the problem is finally acknowledged, then so will the solution of secular Quranism. In the exchange between David and Brutus, it was said by Brutus that he thinks Judaism is authoritarian. Of course it is. All rule-based systems are authoritarian. The point of following these rules is to get the full benefit of them, but Brutus is too idolatrous to acknowledge this fact. Now, idolatry basically appeals to the senses, to the emotions, and Brutus is emotional indeed, and so emotional that he cannot cope with an engagement with me. Because I suppose he knows I will brutally deconstruct the belief system of Brutus. How is he going to use Hinduism or Krishna consciousness to rally British men in order to challenge and defeat the matriarchy? This is, of course, impossible. What you need to do is to find a moral system that is respected and feared to challenge the current order, which also appeals to the supreme authority of the universe. While we know that liberals are atheists and atheists mock God, the point is that deep down there are people who however reluctantly have to acknowledge a higher power. Maybe it is their boss, their girlfriend, their wife, or whatever it is. The point is, no one sane thinks he is supreme, even though he or she might prefer his own opinions to anyone else's. What is really the problem with people like Brutus? Their emotionalism makes it impossible to communicate with them, and it and their emotionalism also cripples their ability to think straight. And therefore, Brutus does not think straight. He cannot bear to be contradicted, just like a girl. And so will be tempted, as girls do, to traduce the motives of the people they disagree with, rather than actually deal with the issues themselves. Now, what is the popularity? What explains the popularity of Brutus? Is he some kind of intellectual giant? No, he isn't, of course, but there is something slightly appealing about his manner in that he is emotional while being sincere, sincere in the expression of his emotions, if not in the way he engages in political discourse. And unfortunately for Western men, he's not the only Western man who emotes like a girl. And really, if I were in charge of nationalism, I would simply forbid men from behaving and thinking like girls. And I have a whole bunch of tips and tricks and principles for men to defend, but sadly, so many of them have become such women that they are no longer capable of understanding the nature and purpose of having moral principles, let alone defending them. They are patients who reject the cure. Now, Brutus is in a position to do good things. I know he has a following of people like him, unable to deal with their emotions, unable to have the intellectual honesty to discuss a topic if they don't like where things are going. And this is what makes Western men so contemptible. They're afraid to say anything. They're afraid to commit to any proposed course of action. They think it's safer to throw stones at their leaders from behind. They have no loyalty to any principle or to themselves because they contradict themselves and traduce each other's motives. And that is because they have no official moral system. And the whole purpose of having an official moral system is so that its principles are public and codified and known, so that its adherents may use their knowledge of these principles to police each other's morals, chief of which is the ability to tell the truth as they see it, exercise logic, constrained by the moral and political principles they claim to hold. But this simple system is not understood, and they refuse to understand this simple system because really they are such hopeless cases that they are patients who are not responsive to treatment, and even if they could be dragged to the doctors, would not want to follow doctors' orders. They are hopeless cases and cannot stop themselves from compulsively displaying their stupidity and hopelessness in order and thereby encouraging their enemies. Rune Skitzing asked Gaud, he wonders what Gaudian math Brutus belongs to. I don't even know what that is. I guess it's some Hindu institution. We know that in his conversation with David, he refused to disclose it. For those of you who are interested, there is a Wikipedia entry which I will post in it I'll post you the link in case anybody's interested. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous that a British man can think of using Hinduism as an organizing force for his countrymen who are basically atheists, nihilists, who are effeminate and infantilized to boot. Unless they correct themselves, they will never amount to anything, and their attempts to express their grievance without proposing a solution only causes contempt and disgust and hatred to rain down on them by those who subscribe to the Abrahamic religions. Surely it can't be that hard to conclude that the people they most complain about, Jews and Muslims, have a superior religion to them. Which is why they're complaining about them. Surely they must have enough self-awareness to know that anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are not viable belief systems. Hating Jews and hating Muslims will only get themselves identified as anti-Semites and Islamophobes and lower their status so that no one will listen to them. So they might as well shut up. In fact, it would be better if they just shut the fuck up. But they're too stupid to realize this. And this is a people I have to deal with. Why do I deal with these people? It's because I nurse the hope that out of the global empire that is the Western Empire, there must exist just one honourable and influential man capable of reading the writing on the wall and wanting to address the issues I raise without giving up because he doesn't think success is just a matter of pressing the nuclear button. So I think I've said enough about what I think of Brutus and his ilk. Do I think that such men are really incapable of correction? Perhaps it's not hopeless if Brutus cares enough to consider the truth of what I say, the truth and logic and morality of what I say, and use his following to address the issues that I've raised. Now, unless he is really a nihilist who doesn't really care, and well, the thing is, he's not even making any money out of his YouTube channel. So because of that, I assume he's sincere. He will keep saying what he believes to be the truth, but there are things that are that causes him to lose control of his emotions and some subjects he cannot bear to consider. I do know that many Western men have been damaged by their terrible childhoods, their unmarried parents, their divorced parents, and have never gotten over it. And this infantilization and feminization of Western men causes their women to feel hatred, contempt, and ridicule for them, and make them rush into the arms of foreign men who have crossed continents and oceans to come to the West, while white men shake like jelly and don't seem capable at all of even thinking the right thoughts, let alone speaking the right words, let alone doing the right thing. But every journey of 1,000 miles begins with one small step. And that is all I have to say. I see that Joe is accusing me of projecting. What am I projecting? I am merely stating a fact about Western men who reject ideas while having no better solution. Okay, so they have jobs. I wonder what Brutus does. I think he works in a factory or something. So I am able to talk freely than others, so they can discuss whether what I say is true or logical or moral. So what is the problem? They can certainly discuss my ideas and say if they get into trouble, we were only discussing her ideas. Isn't that allowed? Now, my marital status is a matter of irrelevance. Do I have to be married in order to promote marriage? I would say no. I do not have to have perfect morals to propose that standards of sexual morality should be raised. My solution is known to all kinds of AI. Yes, I know they are Islamophobes. That's why they choose inferior religions. How am I hypocritical, Joe? A hypocrite is somebody who pretends to believe in things that they don't believe in order to seem more morally virtuous than the people he's talking to. Anjan Chowdhury is proposing Sharia, and I am proposing the Sharia light of secular Quranism. The Islamophobes do not have a better solution. There is Brutus proposing what exactly? Nothing. Just hoping that Nigel Farage will be their saviour. Brutus is proposing nothing at all. As for the hypocrisy you mentioned, Joe, I am saying there are plenty of hypocrites who claim to believe in God and the afterlife when in fact they do not. I am an agnostic promoting a moral system which is a legal system and not a belief system, because I believe that having a codified system of rules will allow the members of the group to police each other's morals. What's wrong with that? Islam is both a weapon and a shield. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that. Right now, Western man has neither shield nor weapon. I do not say secular Quranism is only for whites. I say it is for all of humanity. After all, Muslims claim that the Quran is for all of humanity. What makes you think I hate Westerners? Aren't I one myself in a way? I am a naturalized Westerner. What is a Westerner? It's surely somebody who has citizenship of a Western nation. You don't have to be European to be a Westerner these days, right? These days, plenty of non-whites have citizenship of a Western nation. And this includes America, Europe, and Australasia. Joe, if you can speak Mandarin well, I see no reason why you... And if you were a Chinese national and you spoke Chinese in a way that convinces the Chinese that you know what you're talking about, I think you would be accepted as a Chinese national. Now, I'm sure famous Chinese nationals who are white. Let's see if there are any that I can find online. Because if you're white and you let me see, maybe Grok will be more helpful. Are there Europeans who are Chinese nationals? I made a typo and it thinks that I am asking if there are Europeans who are Chinese nationalists. Are there Europeans who are Yes, there are Europeans who are Chinese citizens. This can occur through naturalization, where individuals from European countries have gained Chinese citizenship through various means, such as marriage to a Chinese citizen, long term residency, or investment in China. However, China does not recognize dual citizenship, so these individuals would typically have to renounce their European citizenship to become Chinese citizens unless they are doing so in a way that isn't officially recognized by China. The process and numbers involved can be quite complex due to China's stringent citizenship laws, but there are documented cases of Europeans naturalizing in China. If you Okay, I'm not interested in specific statistics. It's enough for me to know that they exist. Silly to take Brutus seriously. Well, he has some influence. Because he will say that he's an ethno-nationalist and he wants to kick everyone out. Well, you could say that nobody takes nationalists seriously, but I can only talk about the ones I associate with or subscribe to. So, well, if that's not enough for you, I mean, who do you want me to criticize, really? It's not Google AI that I asked, it's Grok. But anyway, I already knew that there were Europeans who have become Chinese citizens, Chinese nationals. All right, it's nearly 3 a.m. I am going to end this stream having relieved my feelings about emotional Western men who can't engage properly with the issues I raise. Thank you all for listening.